In this video, I'm going to show you how to graph parabolas with your TI calculator. But first, let's get acquainted with some functions on your calculator. To turn it on, press the button in the lower left-hand corner called On, and to turn it off, press the blue button second and the button On. Each button on your calculator has a main function that's printed on the button itself, but most buttons have other functions associated with them. This one has a function called Mode. So if you press it, it takes you to a screen where you can choose settings on your calculator. Its second function, printed in blue, is called Quit. So if you press the second or blue button and then Mode, you quit the screen that you're in. Other buttons have a green function printed on top of them. To access these functions, you're going to have to use the green or the alpha button. So for example, if I press alpha and this button, H comes out, and then I can type E and proceed to type the word hello, because on top of these buttons are letters. If you would like to type more words using only the alpha functions, you can use the function alpha lock. So you can press the second button and press alpha, and so then any button you press will make the green letter or punctuation mark appear. Now sometimes you'll get an error message, and your choices are to quit or to go back to the screen that you were in. You can choose which one to do using the arrows up and down and then pressing enter, or you can just press the button of the option that you want. You can clear a screen by pressing the clear button. Now I'll show you how to edit things that you've typed into your calculator. So if you would like to delete something that you've typed, use the arrow key to go to the number that you would like to delete and press delete. The second function of delete is insert. So if you press the second or blue button and delete, you can insert a number. The answer function in your calculator is also useful. So say, for example, you've performed a calculation and come up with an answer. Now, say you would like to divide 6,000 by 5. So you can directly press divided by and 5, and it will automatically choose the previous answer that you got from the previous calculation. If you press enter, it will perform the calculation correctly. Another useful function is that you can type in fractions as fractions. So to do this, go to Math, and use the arrow keys to go to Fraction. That would be the option that's on the right. Choose the first option. So an empty fraction will show up where you can type in the numerator, and then if you press the down button, you can put in the denominator. And when you press enter, it will give you the answer in fraction form. But you can also have your calculator convert this to decimal form by going to Math and choosing the second function, Convert to Decimal. Press enter, and it will give you the fraction in decimal form. The main functions we'll be using in graphing parabolas, however, are the trace button and its second function, calculate, the y equals button to put in equations, and the graph button to show graphs. So let's move on to creating a graph with your calculator. Press the y equals button to put in an equation. So here I'm going to put x squared minus x minus 6. Press the graph button to view the graph, and the graph should appear in the graphing screen. Next, we're going to use the calculator to find the coordinates of the vertex. So while you're in the graphing screen, find your vertex, which in this case is a minimum. But we're going to have to zoom in, so press zoom and choose zoom in. And you can do that by using the arrow keys or by pressing 2, which is associated with zooming in. Then you're going to have to tell the calculator where to zoom in. So use the arrow keys to move the cursor to the center of focus. Once you're ready, press enter. And then you should see the graph more clearly. To get the coordinates of the vertex, we're going to use calculate, which is second, and trace button. And because in this case the vertex is a minimum, we want to choose option 3. You're going to have to tell the calculator the left boundary, so move to the left of the minimum, press enter, and then move to the right of the minimum and press enter. And then you're going to press enter again. And so now you have the coordinates of the vertex, which is 0.5, and the y-coordinate of the vertex is negative 6.25. Next, we're going to find the coordinates of the y-intercept. So it just so happens that the y-intercept is clearly in view right now, which is over here. So there are two ways to do it. One is to use trace, and because the y-intercept is where x equals 0, pay attention to the x-coordinate. Move to the left until you see that that x-coordinate becomes 0. There we go. So the coordinates of the y-intercept are 0, negative 6. Another way to do it is to use calculate again, which is second trace. And we're going to use the option value, which is number 1. Because the y-intercept is where x is 0, we're going to say x equals 0 and press enter, and that immediately calculates the y-coordinate, which is negative 6. Next, we're going to find the coordinates of the x-intercept or intercepts, but we're going to have to zoom out. So press zoom and choose the option zoom standard, or 6. And this takes you to the original view of the graph. Now remember that the x-intercept, or intercept, is where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So it's useful for us to draw a line on the x-axis. So we're going to go to y equals, and go to the second equation, y2, using the arrow button, and we're just going to put y equals 0. Then, when you press graph, a different colored line should appear along the x-axis. So, the x-intercepts are here and here. There are two x-intercepts. So to find the leftmost x-intercept, we're going to use the button trace, so that we can move to the left along the parabola and go closer to the leftmost x-intercept. Then we're going to use the option calculate, which is second trace. And you're going to choose the option intersect, which is option 5. So it's going to ask you what the first curve is, which is the parabola, so we're pressing enter. And the second curve is the straight line y equals 0, so we're going to press enter, and then enter again to find the intersection between those two graphs, which happens to be negative 2, 0. To find the rightmost intercept, we're going to use trace again and move the cursor along the parabola to go closer to that rightmost x-intercept. And then we're going to use the same procedure. Go to calculate, choose intersect, and then press enter to confirm the first curve and enter to confirm the second, and press enter again to find the intersect. And so the second x-intercept is 3, 0. Next, we can graph the axis of symmetry, which is a vertical line that crosses the vertex. To do this, we're going to use a slightly different procedure. So you're going to go to Draw, which is over here. So press Second, Draw, and you're going to choose the option Vertical to draw a vertical line. And then we're going to type in 0.5 because that's the x-coordinate of the vertex that we found earlier. When you press Enter, the axis of symmetry should appear on your graph. So to review, we were able to graph the axis of symmetry. And to make sure the axis of symmetry is correct, make sure that it goes through your vertex. We were also able to find the y-intercept of the parabola and the two x-intercepts of the parabola. You can also use your calculator to graph additional points or find the coordinates of additional points using trace. So when you press trace, you can move the cursor left and right, and that should give you the coordinates of whatever point is being shown. You can also use the calculate function and use value again. So when you select that, tell the calculator what value for x you would like to use, and it will give you the corresponding y coordinate. In this case, when x equals 2, y equals -4. You can try it with some other values of x as well. If you want to use a negative value, make sure to use this button and not the minus sign. This is the negative button. So to put -2, press that and 2, and then your calculator will show you that when x is -2, y is 0. Let's try that again. Let's put in -3. So when x equals -3, y equals 6. So what your calculator does is it inputs these values of x into the equation for the parabola and finds the corresponding y value. Lastly, you can clear your graph by going to y equals and then pressing the clear button so you can type in a new equation, and you can do it for the other one as well. Then when you go to graph, your graph should be empty. So your calculator is not just useful in graphing and showing you how to graph parabolas, but it's also very useful in checking your mathematical work. So in class, I'm going to expect you to be able to determine different characteristics of the parabola, like the vertex and the intercepts and the axis of symmetry, just by using the equation. But then you can use your calculator to check your work and to make sure that the results that you got from your calculations are correct.